Hey guys, Drifter here. Today I want to talk to you about gambling and loot systems in gaming. This is a disturbing trend that I've noticed occurring in almost every single new game that comes out, big or small, and the gameplay you're watching right now is me playing Call of Duty Black Ops 3 just because it has one of those systems, and I'm playing with two weapons that I got through the random loot system, the MX Garand and the Marshall 16, on a DLC map, no doubt. But this is a disturbing trend in gaming. It's more disturbing to me than pre-order bonuses, Day 1 DLC, and microtransactions, and it's not just limited to Call of Duty. If I want to go play the other most popular shooter on the planet and boot up CSGO, well, we've got a case system there. If I want to go play something a little bit more peppy, Overwatch has a loot system as well. It's cosmetic only like CSGO, but it's still a random system. Even League of Legends decided to change its microtransaction cosmetic skin thing and add a loot crafting system. A lot of people would like to hold up Battlefield as the gold standard for good guys in gaming right now, but you gotta remember they've had battle packs for quite a while. Mobile games are loaded with microtransactions and little random gambling things. Pokemon Go is almost gambling because you have no idea if you're actually going to catch the Pokemon with your Pokeballs or not. Free-to-play games have had this forever, and I've even noticed it happening in single-player games. In single-player games, you unlock random reward crates, and in some single-player games, you can actually spend real money to get your random reward crates, which is very, very scary, and the question is why? Why in the hell do we have this system? Why is it so prevalent? Why is it in every single game? And the short answer is because random DLC loot makes more money than anything else on the planet right now, at least as far as gaming is concerned. The games themselves make money when you buy them. They make money on a sale. The DLC makes the company money as well, and even the cosmetic micro DLC that a lot of games have now also make money, but gambling for DLC, for skins, for cases, for weapons, for character models, for emotes and taunts and Pokeballs or whatever, or you don't really gamble. You gamble on whether or not you can actually catch those very frustrating Pidgeys, but all of these things, the gambling aspect makes so much more money than direct sales. There's just something about gambling, if you think about it basically like being a slot machine, it just short circuits the logical part of our brain, because instead of treating it like a purchase or like a rational risk-reward type thing, we treat it more like a game, literally like the game that we're playing, and we're already predisposed to it being a game because we are on a game, right? And when you do this, you'll get big dopamine rushes, which is a happy chemical in your brain, so you get big highs and big lows, but by the nature of us being human beings, we typically only remember the big highs, kind of like the gamblers. They only remember the times they win and not the times they lose all of their money. And game companies know this, other businesses know this, and it's kind of like, why would you sell horse armor for $5 when the same person or the same group of people will gladly gamble $50 to try and win the horse armor or ultra horse armor and a dozen different items, and the gamers seem to love it. I mean, some of them do. Of course, there's pushback. This is a community pushback. There's lots of people that don't like it, but by and large, people love it enough to spend a ton of money on it. You don't have to look very far to see evidence of this. If you look up studies about microtransaction loot system sales, they're all very positive in terms of revenue, and you can see every single game adopting this system. It's pretty much going everywhere, and there's so many people at fault in this chain. Game companies are obviously at fault for predatory sales and tactics, but consumers are also at fault for spending irrationally and sometimes being willfully ill-informed. Yet on the flip side, very few game companies ever publish the odds of getting any items out of these boxes. As a matter of fact, most of the time in almost every company, not just COD, they're handled server-side, they're relatively private. The community tries to work really hard to work out the odds so that people kind of understand the risk in their gambling, but most of the time that's private. In many instances, parents are at fault for not properly educating their children or even being interested enough in their children's lives to notice that they are gambling on video games in a sense. And interestingly, our corporate structure in America causes this. The very fundamentals of our Western capitalism can cause this because corporations have to compete on stock prices and give returns. Even if you're not a corporation, if you're a small like indie company making a mobile game, you still have a return on investment investment that you have to give to either yourself or your private or individual investors, and it must be better or at least competitive with other investments proportional to the risk. If we're going to go back to the corporate thing, they're beholden to their shareholders, right, and their stock price. If they fall too far behind and their returns aren't as good, they are at risk of being bought out when the stock price drops too low. And you're saying, well, if a company makes money in every game sale, why would the stock price drop too low? Let's say that Company X and Company Y are competing. Company X introduces a random loot generation system to their game that vastly increases their margins by whatever number you want to give. We'll just say double or triple for this part, so it'll be really fast. Company Y is making less money or getting less return per dollar than Company X, so X's stock goes up and Y's stock goes down to the point where in the future, people might just stop investing in Y, or X might totally buy out Y and the company's dead. So Y has to match somehow. Somehow they have to make money or get a better margin to compete with Company X. Most of the time, people at companies are not going to have a brilliant counter solution just off the top of their hats. So they're like, hey, if X is doing it, we can do it too. We can just copy their thing. And that's exactly what's going on in gaming. A similar kind of thing actually happened in our subprime banking crisis. Believe it or not, there were some banks that did not like subprime loans. There were some banks that were kind of concerned about it, but these other companies were making money hand over fist, and they realized that it's not going away anytime soon, and if we don't compete right now, we're going to get bought out. And it just made this bubble bigger and bigger and bigger. And I do think that this is a bubble of some sort. Sometime at some point in the future, maybe next year, maybe 3 years, 5, 10 years, at some point it's going to come to a head, and I think it might even come to a head via legislation. I would not be surprised if companies have to publish their actual odds of winning or losing, just like regular gambling at a casino. And if that doesn't happen, which it may not, I would wager that there's a critical point at which consumers kind of get tired of this, or they don't like the gambling aspect, and a new, more effective business model will take over. It might not be gambling, it might be something totally different, probably will be something totally different that we've never thought of, but if this model continues to frustrate people and they go try other things, a new model will eventually take over, because I don't see this practice as being unsustainable. Surely it can't be. Not everybody wants to gamble real money when they've already purchased a game. I think the consumers are very aware of that. This is a very rambly, ranty video. I know it's just something I had to get off my chest because it feels like literally every single game I boot up now is trying to convince me to buy some kind of crate or system or something. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something useful. If you did, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. Drifter out.